Hello, Starshine. This is Smadar from Song of Stones. I am a crystal whisperer, which means I talk to stones and they talk to me. And I am here to talk to you about some crystals who were singing for me this week. I have a bit of a deep, sexy voice today because I'm just moving through something. And I'll be talking about that as well. So earlier this week, I've been exploring some I don't even know how to describe it, but let me just say I've been experiencing a spiritual transition, let's call it that, a shift in consciousness, if you will. And sometimes when that happens, sometimes when we go through something, an expansion in our spirituality, our bodies take a while to adjust. And that's what happened to me this week. I won't go into the details here. That's for another time, another place. But I will say that I called on the crystals for support with the physical transition. So I woke up one morning this week in such pain that I was debilitated for a couple of days. And thankfully I have some beautiful techniques, I guess I'll call them, that I can go to that helped me tremendously. You've probably heard me talking about them. I have my star songs, which are instantly healing and transformative. And there's also the orb, or the crystal orb, which is an energy healing experience that is incredibly powerfully helpful. I used both those things and felt an immediate peacefulness come over me. That doesn't say that I didn't have to still experience go through the experience of the physical adjustment, because I did. It just was not, I did not suffer through it, which I could have easily. So one of the first things I reached for was the black Shungite that you're seeing right there. That's the Crystal Medic stone that I have spoken about recently. And also my hot pink healer, which has helped me before with some physical transformational stuff. And I've talked about that as well. But also what I was hearing, what came into my mind's eye was wolfenite. And that little tiny orange, beautiful little orange crystal is wolfenite. Wolfenite is not often spoken about in metaphysical circles. It is a tiny but very powerful crystal. It is a stone of extreme love and helps to boost self-esteem. This is a crystal that I've given to people who have gone through things like anorexia It is one magical stone. Anyways, so I was looking for this stone, and like I said, I had very limited mobility. So it took me a while before I was able to go and search for it. And I didn't find it, but what I did find was this sunstone next to the hot pink healer. I am going to move the camera around a little bit. Maybe you can see the rainbows and the shimmer effect. There's a word for it in sunstone. The coppery schiller, that's what it's called. Schiller, shimmer, both of those things. And golden glow and rainbow flashes. I think that's because the rainbow flashes, I think, comes because the stone has been chipped a little bit. So I saw this stone in the center of a jar filled with stones, and I had to empty the jar to get to this stone because it was calling so powerfully. And this is the one that I think really got me through the transition and also shared some incredible insights. Really huge, powerful stuff. It's not something I could get into on a short video. Maybe one day we'll get to it. But it's not really relevant to what I came here to talk to you about. I wanted to talk about a couple of things. I wanted to talk about how it's really important to have a source of physical support sometimes. And when we're in a state of physical pain, we can't always think so clearly. And that's why it's good to have a little bowl or pouch or box or wherever we want to keep our crystals or wherever they're asking to be kept. It's important to have something like that you can reach for in times of distress or stress or trauma. Truthfully, what I went through this week was a sort of physical trauma, and that's why I think I was shown the wolfenite crystal. I didn't end up connecting with it. I brought it here now. It's the last one that I have on the website. I brought it to show you so you would know what I was talking about when I talked about wolfenite. And if you have not experienced wolfenite, I highly recommend exploring it if you're called to it. It's a really powerful stone, and it's also it might have some toxic elements. I'd have to go and look that up. It's definitely not one you would put in a crystal elixir. And it's one that you want to handle with care. Not make sure that it's not scratched. It's not in a place where it's going to be bounced around. And you might want to, clean your hands when you're working with wolfenite. I'm not sure, 100% sure that's true, but this is what I'm sensing, so I'm just going to mention it. I will double check that for you guys. So it's good to have some stones to call on, and that's what I did with these. And then it's also good to really listen into what your body is asking for. And my body was asking for this sunstone in a big way, in a very powerful way. And I also pulled out my orange Orosoma bottle. And if you haven't heard of Orosoma, it's quite special. These are bottles of colors. It's a form of color healing. As far as I'm concerned, it is. And it was created by the seventh child of a seventh child who was blind at the time that she created these vividly colorful essences. So that alone is pretty powerful. I'm just blown away by that, by the way the universe works and how, our senses are so much more than the 5 that we attribute to in life. So orange, if I haven't already mentioned, I think I did say that it was a color for trauma. So that is why I pulled out the orange essence. It was calling to me. And, even though orange is a trauma color, if pink is calling you, if green is calling you, if blue is calling you, go for that. Because I remember once I had, it was actually the time when my hot pink healer was singing to me. I injured my hand. I didn't really injure it. It just became injured. I couldn't use it. I couldn't move it. It was very painful. And it went on for 7 days and then it was over. And during that time, the hot pink healer helped. But also a baby blue scarf that I knitted years and years ago that I never used. I suddenly was being called to wrap my hand in, and it made a beautiful difference to me. So I'm mentioning that because, and this is something you'll hear me say all the time, trust yourself, trust your body, trust what you're feeling, trust what you're drawn to. I will never stop saying that because it's one of the most important things. When you have self-trust, you have everything. Because everything is right there in you. And all you need to do is just learn how to trust yourself and learn the language of your soul. So for me, this beautiful sunstone was singing. And there were lots of other things that were happening as well with the stone. This morning, I dropped it. And it fell. I was in the bathroom. I had just finished showering. And I dropped it and it fell under the bathroom cabinet. And it fell to the far right side of the cabinet and I couldn't reach it, and my husband helped me and he couldn't see it. He pulled out a flashlight. He looked everywhere. He could not see it. So I pulled out the broom because sometimes I will leave things and I will let them guide me into finding them when the right time is. But this time I just knew I needed to have this stone with me. It still needed to be close by. So I pulled out the broom and I methodically swept forward everything that was under there, and there were lots of things under there. And that might have been the point of this whole exercise. Sometimes the crystals and the universe gets you to do things by making you do other things. So I think I was looking for this sunstone in order to sweep out what was underneath the sink. And this is another thing that happens during physical transformations and spiritual transformations, is cleaning. a lot of cleaning happens, breaking happens. I broke something this morning. Every single time that I go through a spiritual shift, something breaks. It never fails. So something broke. And then this little guy fell. And when I pulled this beauty out, it was on the far, far left side of the cabinet. I do not know, honestly, how it went from where it was on the far right to the very far left. Because when it fell, it was aimed towards the right. It wasn't like, I know things, when you break things, shards scatter across the room, but this was not a shard. This was a pretty heavy piece. It's not a light piece. It's small, but it's not light. And anyways, I think it's magic. You can call it coincidence or physics or mathematics, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. Really, it truly doesn't matter how we see it. It's what needed to happen happened. It needed to drop so that I could clean out and find glass shards from past breaks, a couple of little pieces from that were left over from the thing I broke this morning, which was a small little clay cup. It broke quite neatly in two. There were maybe a couple of tiny little pieces. It wasn't anything that I would have brought out the broom for. So maybe that's what I was being shown, to find the last little pieces so I don't step on them. Yeah, so that's my story about this crystal and my shift this week. And I'll just reiterate the reason that I came here to share the story with you is, for one thing, to have some crystals that you can call on when you're in distress, and to have the go-to ones, but also be open to something new or something different, because you never know what is going to show up. And you might be looking for one thing and end up with something else. And that's what happened to me. And I guess, if the universe had shown me sunstone, the jar that I went to look through would not have been the same one. I wouldn't have gone to look in that jar at all, actually. I would have gone where I keep my sunstones, somewhere else. And so because I was looking for wolfenite, I was able to find it. And it was really one of the first things that, first places I was led to look. And there it was. So there you go. Even if you're looking for something specific, be open to what you find. And the way you'll know is that you'll feel something in your body, or you'll be magnetically drawn to something. And you'll know that that's, even though it's not what you originally planned on, that's what you need in the moment. And I'm sure that I still connected to the wolfenite energy. It's still something that is in alignment with what I was needing. And I didn't need to have a wolfenite crystal with me to connect with that energy. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. It could be that I needed the wolfenite energy and the sunstone that I would only find by looking for the wolfenite. So the universe, is brilliant at leading us to where we need to go. And also, it's not limited the way we are sometimes to one thing or the other. It can have multiple, and it often does have multiple purposes. So there you go. There's my little group of healing helpers that I had this week, and I am so appreciative of the magic that is so abundant. And I wish you lots and lots and lots of blessings in your life, and send you lots and lots of love. And I will see you soon, my friends.